I'm honored to be able to say a few words of inspiration and divrei Torah for Rabbi Pessin in Eretz Yisrael on the occasion as we approach Chanukah. But really this lesson and this story is appropriate literally throughout the whole year. And this is called Torah 24/7, and this lesson really is for a Yid who likes to live and be a Ben Torah for 24/7. A number of years ago, I had the opportunity to take over 100 people to Italy. And the purpose of the trip was to focus on Yiddishkeit that flourished at one time in Italy. And of course, Rabbi Chaim Lutzato lived there. There were many other Gedolim that were in Italy. And we went to different cities, Florence, Venice. But I knew that the last day of the trip in Rome would be the most moving. And the reason that I felt that way is because there is a part of Rome that really does not exist in other major cities throughout the world. Most major cities try to show how modern they are, whether you go to New York or Los Angeles or Zurich, wherever you go, Antwerp, everybody's always trying to show you the modern buildings and the technology. But in Rome, there's a whole area that's set aside, and that's called the Roman ruins. And for blocks and blocks, you can see courthouses or palaces that have doors that they lead no place. And they have pillars that are just halfway there, that's it. Only part of the pillars exist. And so these are ancient relics that are there for almost 2,000 years. But then there's something that's very painful to look at, and it's almost in its perfection. And you have to wonder, why did Hashem allow that this arch of Titus, which is 51 feet high, why should it have been left all these years? Especially if you take a close look at it, you will see that on top of the arch there was an engraving, a masterful engraving of Yidden, poor Yidden, broken Yidden, taking out the menorah and taking it out of Yerushalayim. And this was the beginning of the journey into Golus. And really it's almost like a disgrace for Yidden that it's there, because it shows us at our lowest moments when we were sent out of Yerushalayim. And Titus had a major aspect, he had a major role in destroying the Beis HaMikdash. So I knew that as we stood alongside the Arch of Titus, that I would want to speak about it and give an insight that I felt was very meaningful. And I told the people that in 1953, the Panovich Urov came to this Arch of Titus, and he pointed up to the arch and he said, Titus, Titus, you thought that you were going to defeat us. You thought that you got rid of us. But today there's no Roman Empire. There are no descendants of Titus. But we, the Jewish people, we exist all over the world. So you thought you defeated us, but just the opposite. We really outlasted and defeated you. But I have a very dear friend, his name is Rabbi Nachum Gross. And Rabbi Nachum Gross told me an amazing story. He told me a story about an American correspondent who came to report on a wall, which is called the Hadrian's Wall. It's miles and miles and miles long. And it's in the northern part of England, near the town of Gateshead. And this was built by the Romans so that the barbarians would not be able to come and to penetrate into what was the most northern part of the Roman Empire. And now this correspondent was a Jewish fellow, not religious, and he came to report on the wall, and he saw that the wall is not choshev anymore. People just take away pieces of it and they use it as mementos. And there was a person who went over to this correspondent and said to him, "You're Jewish?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you know there's a Jewish neighborhood around here?" And he said, "No, I didn't know that." He said, "Would you like to be taken?" He said, "Yeah, I'd like to see the Jewish neighborhood here." And they brought him, whoever brought him, was very, very intelligent. They brought him to the house of the Gateshead Rosh Hashiva, Rab Leib Gurewitz. Now, Rab Leib spoke to this fellow, and in a few moments he saw that this fellow knew nothing about Yiddishkeit. He was writing a report about Hadrian's Wall, and of course, Hadrian in the Gemara is Hadrayonis. Hadrayonis was one of the people who was influential in having Rabbi Akiva killed. Now, what Rabbi Leib Gurewitz did was an amazing thing. He took this correspondent into the gates at Beis Medrash. Now, Rav Matzio Solomon told me that he remembers the day that Rabbi Leib Gurewitz, he was in the Beis Medrash, and he remembers the day that Rabbi Leib brought this fellow, this non-frum correspondent, into the Beis Medrash. Now, this guy had never been in a Beis Medrash before. And could you imagine what he sees? 200 guys yelling, screaming, arguing, books on the shelves, off the shelves, little books, big books, writing, tumbling, like you can't believe, how can anybody think here? And listen what Rabbi Leib said. Rabbi Leib said to the correspondent, he said, you came to report about Hadrian's Wall, right? Hadrian doesn't exist, his descendants don't exist, and he was the one who helped kill Rabbi Akiva. You see, these 200 guys here, they're still talking all these years later what Rabbi Akiva meant. Rabbi Akiva still exists today in the minds and the hearts of all these young men that are here today. And not only that, there are dozens of places like this around the world where everybody's still trying to figure out what Rabbi Akiva meant. So Rabbi Akiva and Klal Yisrael lives on. The Roman Empire does not live on. And that's what I told the people as we stood alongside the arch. There are those who say that you're not allowed to stay under it, so we didn't stand under the arch, we stood alongside the arch. And I told them that I believe that the reason that the Rebbeinu Shalom has allowed that arch to be there in its perfection is because there's a great lesson for us. You see, that menorah represents the idea of ki ner mitzvah v'Torah or. Ner mitzvah, every mitzvah that we do is a candle. And Torah is the light. That's the true light of Klal Yisrael. Now, the only way that we are going to be able to make it to the end of the journey, and the end of the journey, of course, is the end of the Golus when Mashiach comes. We're going to be able to make it if we carry that menorah, if we carry the lesson of that menorah, ki ner mitzvah v'Torah or. So it's not only a question of Chanukah. Of course, when we come to Chanukah and we light the licht, we light the candles, we have to know that the real light of Klal Yisrael is the light of Torah. But this is something that's relevant 24/7, and that's why it's so appropriate to be on this website of Torah 24/7, because that's what Yiddishkeit is all about. Carrying that menorah, carrying that commitment to do mitzvahs every day and to learn Torah every day, because ki ner mitzvah v'Torah are. And that's what I said to the people. We stand alongside that arch and see the beginning of that journey, and we hope, Be'ez Hashem, that we are around at the end of the journey when Mashiach comes. So I just hope that all of us will be able to learn this lesson and bring it to fruition, and we should be zeicha to be able to do mitzvahs 24/7.